Arc Raiders has become one of the most fun and enjoyable video games I've played of the entire year, and I think it's fitting that we're ending the year with such a successful game where there have been a lot of disappointments throughout this year. However, with the success of this game, there is a huge chunk of the discussion coming down to one specific topic, and that one topic is KOS, or kill on sight. Some players call it unfair, some say it ruins the experience, and almost every negative review mentions it. But with the tightrope act that developers have to balance with PvPvE games in general, it's proven fact that if you listen to this portion of the player base and you try to change the game to what they are upset about right now, it'll be the doom of your game. And in this video, I'd like to try to make my best case that KOS and the PvP aspect of this game is what will make it stand the test of time. The developers made Arc Raiders a PvPvE game. That means the tension between player and player is not optional, it's a pillar. They want it to be a part of the game. This isn't some community created trick or exploit, it's not griefing. The developers didn't accidentally let players shoot each other. They want players to make that choice, because the choice is where the game really thrives. And the game is PvE focused at its core. It is not a multiplayer like Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of those other games where it's player versus player. It is much more focused on the player versus environment aspect of the game, like Helldivers, if you want to make that comparison. But the unpredictability, the extra layer of this game, the human element, is where the PvP really starts to transform this from an ordinary game to a game that I really think is going to stand the test of time and be an incredibly successful game. Now, you can't read a review or watch a video on Arc Raiders without looking at someone who mentions the comparison of Escape from Tarkov. Now, Escape from Tarkov is the godfather of extraction shooters. Now, it has had its own problems for many, many years, and it has seen its fair shares of peaks and valleys. However, it has stood the test of time with all of them, and it has always bounced back in a somewhat positive light. It is the godfather of extraction shooters for this new genre built around extraction shooters. However, the comparison with Arc Raiders and Escape from Tarkov, in my view, really should just stop at the success and the popularity of it. Because if you really take a look at Escape from Tarkov, it is a game that is also PvPvE. There is an environment element of the game. However, Tarkov is a PvP first and a PvE second, whereas Arc Raiders is definitely PvE first and PvP second. And yet, in all these years that Tarkov has existed, I've never really heard anyone complain that there's too much PvP. Even though Tarkov punishes you far harder when another player kills you than in Arc Raiders. You lose all your gear, you lose all your resources, you lose hours of farming, it's all gone in a second. People still accept it because the danger of that is what gives Tarkov its identity. A game like Arc Raiders is going to stand the test of time because of one reason, and that's going to be the human unpredictability element. Look at games like DayZ, like Scum, like Rust. Those are not extraction shooters, but those are definitely PvPvE games. And the KOS in those games are what creates the most intense moments. But what's really the biggest thing that stands out to me that I don't think a lot of people really think through when they get upset about getting KOS in this game or whatever, is that if you were to remove it, then you would take out all the endless possibilities of what this game has with the human element. As someone with over 3,000 hours in DayZ, I don't remember the random firefights I've had. I don't remember every time I got shot immediately on sight. I don't remember every time I shot someone on sight. I don't remember like all those annoying moments that these people are talking about. But what I do remember are these strangers who became my teammates. What I do remember are the people who offered to help, the adventures that we would go on, the memories of a random person across the internet somewhere else in the world that decided to be a friendly person, and then we have hours of excitement and enjoyment. Those interactions are what fuel these games, and that's what makes these games stand the test of time. When you strip away all the emotional reactions, most complaints about KOS boil down to one simple thing: losing to another player feels worse than losing to a computer. When you lose to a robot in this game, it feels like it's part of the game. Sure, it sucks, you lose all your stuff, and it really is like, well, I'll just load back in, but that's why I'm playing. When you lose to another player, it stings. That pain really sucks. We've all experienced it, but that's the same emotion that makes surviving these games meaningful. If dying doesn't matter, then surviving doesn't matter either. And if there's one portion of this video that I think is much more important than any other, it's this next portion, because it's not the first time that a PvPvE game has faced the pressure to tone down or remove the PvP element of its history. And as you're about to see, it's not been very kind to developers that crack to the pressure. One of my personal favorite games that struggled with this was a game called Evolve. Chances are you've never heard of it or even ever played it. It's one of the games that is probably in a historian museum somewhere of short-lived games that could have been cool. Now, this game launched with like a PvPvE hunt. There were 4 players versus 1 monster who was played by another player. There were elements of like wildlife and animals and poisonous things, and the object of the game was for you to hunt a player. However, that got really sort of annoying with players, and they didn't like the PvP element of it, and so the developers listened and they made it a more PvE friendly structure. And well, go try to buy this game now. It didn't live. It didn't last very long because it got stale, it got boring, it got very, very repetitive, and I stopped playing it right after they changed that, and so many other people did as well. Then you have the Cycle Frontier, a game that just like Arc Raiders started as a PvPvE extraction shooter. The developers tried to soften the PvE, reduce the KOS, add safe zones, make the game more accessible. The result? Well, again, try to go play this game because the player base evaporated so fast that the servers shut down. And the game, it just became boring. A loop farming simulator. It was just over and over. You spawn in, you get loot, you leave. You run to a safe zone, you don't die. It was so predictable and repetitive. There was no challenge or risk to the event of playing the game. And even Hunt Showdown, which is an incredibly successful extraction shooter. In my opinion, I think this is the best one. I do think it's better than Escape from Tarkov because they really hone in on the PvPvE element of it, where Tarkov, as mentioned, focuses on the PvP. But from the beginning of this game, people wanted to turn back the PvP aspect of it. The developers were hinting at the fact that they were going to go one way with it. They were going to lessen the struggle of PvP, but the community rejected it. They spoke up. They were like, do not change it. So what did the studio do? They doubled down on making it even harder. And I will tell you this right now, the PvP in Hunt Showdown, if you haven't played it, it is the hardest PvP in any of these games that we have mentioned today. But because Cryotech didn't listen to the people who were upset in the infant stage of this game, it is now one of the best thriving, successful extraction shooters ever made. These examples matter because they prove something very simple. If Arc Raiders removes or weakens the PvP, it won't just change the game, it will erase the identity and what makes it so much fun right now. These examples matter because they really prove something simple. If Arc Raiders removes or weakens the PvP element of this game, it won't just change the game, it will really be its step in the wrong direction, as we've seen with any of those games mentioned before. But on the flip side of that, I hear you say, there are PvE games that improved when they added PvP. Fallout 76 was not a very successful game. It was not a game that people were really enjoying or running to the stores to buy. However, when they added PvP, the game became more successful. People often agree that the addition of combat and PvP in this game added to the success, or lack thereof, added to the somewhat stability of that game. And even a game like Warframe, which really, they just added like an arena mode to it where you just fight other teammates, but still it added an element of the game. It's the evolution of the PvE formula that will eventually turn into a PvPvE aspect of the game. The moment you create even the possibility of unpredictability, you create stories, you create tension, you create moments worth talking about. PvP doesn't destroy PvE. PvP fuels PvE. So when people say that KOS is what's going to ruin Arc Raiders, I don't think they realize that removing it would ruin something much bigger. It would remove the tension. It would remove the identity. It would remove the heart of what makes Arc Raiders what it wants to be. Because in a PvPvE world, their goal isn't to avoid danger. The goal is to navigate it, to choose when to fight, to choose when to run. to choose who to trust. And without those choices, Arc Raiders wouldn't be Arc Raiders. It would just be another shooter.